Pokémon Horizons is currently showing the adventure of Liko and Roy, and we have to say, it's very exhilarating. The narrative of this series is really incredible, and the amount of plot twists we've received so far is something to definitely not miss out on. After today's episode, let's just say something insane was revealed, and trust me, you definitely want to stick around to learn more about it. Hey, what's going on guys, my name's Raf, and today, episode 78 of the Pokémon Horizons anime aired in Japan. This episode ended up bringing forward many more revelations, and let's just say a brand new special preview trailer dropped something absolutely jaw-dropping. Let's take a closer look. Firstly, we have today's episode. In this episode, we got to see the Rising Voltaclers arrive at the archipelago of islands in search of Lucius's final Pokémon being Entei. After encountering this legendary Pokémon and participating in an intense battle, they learned that in fact this Pokémon is one that not belongs to Lucius, and in fact is a legendary beast that roams alongside its brethren being Raikou and Suicune. This ended up catching everyone off guard, and I'll explain later more why specifically. The battle was pretty cool though, and after learning the truth, the gang then called Bria, who ends up revealing some more insights about Heath's research about Paradox Pokemon, leading to us seeing the image shown back in the Scarlet and Violet games. I'm really glad we got to see Amethio return, and it turns out that Amethio's father is in fact the president of the Exceed company, once again adding many more questions to the table, especially after learning how he didn't fulfill Gibeon's wishes of going back to Rakua. This episode done a really good job at catching us all off guard, and revealing more interesting details to coincide with the plot. There's quite a lot of dialogue to understand from this episode, so when subs are revealed, I'll be sure to post my full review on Twitter, so if you haven't followed me there already, then you already know what to do. Let's now talk about episode 79, that will be airing after the Christmas break on the 10th of January. This episode is titled Over the Top. No summary at the moment though. Looking at the preview trailer for this episode, we can see the gang will encounter Geeta and battle her in preparation for Area Zero. Rika and Penny return, of course to relate to the assessment as well. It seems like this is going to be a triple battle, and we're going to see lots of terrestrialization, but hold fire for now, as we'll explore more about that shortly. However, let's now talk about today's special preview trailer, outlining events that will be shown in the new year, alongside episode 80 titled Only Awesome Pokemon in Area Zero. There's actually quite a lot to talk about, so make sure you buckle up broski. Of course, to coincide with episode 79, we will finally see the heroes battle champion Geeta and her Pokemon. This for sure is going to be a great way to test the trio's skills and showcase all of their development to ensure that they're ready to embark and explore Area Zero. Geeta is for sure going to see if they're worthy of this challenge, but I'm sure we all know what's going to happen anyway. Speaking of Area Zero, this place looks absolutely sensational with the anime art style. Of course, Bria's going to return, and I'm so glad we're seeing the gang explore this place, and yes, it was hinted back in episode 56, but I'm just happy that it's not being put on a back burn. We also see that Sango and Onyx will be returning, and various Paradox Pokemon will also be appearing, such as Sandy Shocks, Screamtail, Iron Hands, Iron Valiant, and the big shock being Goughing Fire. I always had an idea that maybe Lucius's Entei could have been this Pokemon instead, but the fact they've introduced this Pokemon as well is bloody brilliant. I'm looking forward to seeing them battle it. There's a couple of frames mentioned from a previous special trailer that links up to the gang battling Rayquaza again. Battling Rayquaza in Area Zero is freaking insane, brother. Like, these lot are seriously doing a mad thing with this series, and I can't wait to see how everything unfolds from this segment. Right, let's now talk about some details shown from the series that are slowly starting to bring new pieces of the puzzle together. Let's start off by talking about a cool Easter egg reference. Back in episode 76, we saw the gang meet Sadio, a previous member of the Rising Voltaclers. At one point in the episode, Molly's Chansey sends him and his Why Not flying. The way these guys are sent off was almost similar to how Team Rocket has been blasted off back in the original series. Whilst it seems this may or may not have been an intentional detail added, it's still cool to believe that maybe this was a small reference to our beloved Rocket trio. Next, we have Rakurium. In episode 75, we got to learn about the 3 explorers and also the tragedy that happened in Rakua. After learning how dangerous Rakurium is, Lucius mentions that Rakurium has the potential to destroy the world. This is due to the effects it has on materials on Pokemon. Whilst I find it interesting how maybe depending on what happens in the plot, what if the explorers have much more malicious intent with Rakurium and cause huge devastations? I wonder if maybe we were going to see the explorers take a change of character and maybe work together with the Rising Voltaclers to stop this potential massacre. This then brings us on to Gibeon Zygarde. As shown before, Zygarde was in its 50% form, but then it reverted to its 10% form after using its cells to stop the Rakurium outburst. Not only is it interesting to see Zygarde go against Gibeon's word to contain the Rakurium, but it also shows that this Pokemon truly is following its role as the protector of the ecosystem. From the opening frame showing us the gang will most certainly battle Zygarde in battle, it makes you think how Zygarde will gain its cells again to reach this form. Or it could be the experiment that the explorers are currently conducting could help this Pokemon elevate back to that form without the use of cells, or maybe some form of replica of the cells. I don't know, I'm just trying to think outside of the box. Speaking of Zygarde, How exactly did Gibeon meet this legendary Pokemon and catch it with the new Pokeball? Also, how did Lucius do this with Rayquaza? Whilst we have seen that legendary Pokemon and shiny forms are truly thriving in this narrative, there are a few gaps in the wood that need filling to make us understand the way these characters caught and developed alongside them, but maybe I'll talk about that in a future video. Next up, we have Area Zero, and I'm really glad that we're going to see the gang go there. After how Geeta and Kleavor mentioned all of the details about the accident that occurred, and how Geeta said she was eventually going to accompany him there, I'm really excited to see how this is going to happen. I reckon after the events and battle against her in episode 79, this is where she will approve of their strength and allow them to explore Area Zero. Of course, we now have confirmation that various Paradox Pokemon correlating to the merchandise drop I mentioned in the previous video is finally coming true. See, I told you lot not to sleep on the merch. I'm also happy we're not only going to be limited to Scarlet exclusives. Plus, the concept of Past on the Future is being fulfilled here, so it's a big win. I'm quite interested to see if any of these characters will catch them too, seeing as we can see some small focus frames with them. Unless if this is just going to be a small segment showcasing the Pokemon with the characters before they end up fleeing again. It's all very exciting stuff, and it seems from the new merchandise too that there may be potential more Pokemon appearing shortly. Whilst we're at it, let's talk a little bit about Goughing Fire. So it turns out this Pokemon is actually going to appear in the anime. I've mentioned before how I thought Pokémon Horizons could implement another plot twist, maybe showing Goughing Fire to be Lucius's Pokemon instead of Entei, and I wonder if this is actually going to happen now. The Entei encountered in episode 78 was not a Pokemon belonging to Lucius, so what if Goughing Fire was Lucius's Pokemon all along? Entei wasn't shown in opening 4, there was minimal data about Entei, and it's been many years since Lucius's time. Nah, Pokemon Horizons, I'm onto you, bro. I mean, okay, maybe there actually is another Entei that exists belonging to Lucius, and maybe fighting Goughing Fire will allow them to learn more about the ancient counterpart as well. It would be pretty crazy if this is actually true, especially seeing after all of the flashbacks that relate to Entei, a Pokemon that's actually known, and with Goughing Fire being almost unknown, mate, there's just so much potential. There's definitely something going on there, rude boy. Okay, let's now talk about this prick. Spinel. As the story has developed, we can clearly see Spinel is a lunatic. At the end of episode 75, we saw Spinel mention how he wanted to reach Rakua with or even without Gibeon. I'm starting to think that maybe he could be the major boss at the end of this series, especially after he was the one to experiment with Rakurium on his Umbreon to see the potential capabilities. It could be that maybe Gibeon learns the truth about this and then loses energy and becomes unhealthy after Spinel takes over and attempts to take Rakua all for himself. Now let's chat about our GOAT Roy. So, with the special preview trailer clearly focusing on Roy encountering Rayquaza again, and how the whole arc is focusing on Rayquaza Rising once again too, I think it's fair to say that this idea of him catching this Pokemon could come into fruition soon. Liko has Terapagos, and Roy catching Rayquaza could be the perfect counterpart to this. It wouldn't be entirely impossible seeing as people can gift others Pokemon in the anime, and with how Liko caught Pakugo, which was a Pokemon originally under Lystal's ownership. Roy made it apparent to us that he wanted to be just like Lucius and also catch Rayquaza back in episode 6. So this coming full circle will not only be a game changer for the narrative, but also a great way to show how strong Roy has become as a much more confident and developed character. He's had a lot of development so far, so this will be pretty perfect. Overpowering, but perfect. We can't really complain about characters having legendary Pokemon anymore. Then again, Rayquaza is a super ancient Pokemon, but yeah, you'll get what I'm trying to say. It's time to talk about Pakugo. So with the recent groundbreaking use of Liko catching Pakugo, I'm starting to think about the future. The pendant has been in Liko's family for generations, so it makes sense for her to keep this until the very end, right? Or will we get an episode focusing on how Lystal met Terapagos, and maybe Liko releasing it back in Area Zero? We now have confirmation that Area Zero does exist in the anime, which is pretty incredible, and it opens up lots of opportunity for new Pokemon to appear and future plot points to become canon, especially with the Paradox Pokemon. Seeing as the gang will be visiting Area Zero, and maybe helping Pakugo regain its Terra energy or maybe even some other power too, it's possible that all of that could be a catalyst to a future plot point. Seeing as we know Terapagos used its power to also scatter the heroes around the world for their safety, maybe there is also something else we don't know about this Pokemon that is yet to be revealed. Even though Terapagos was said to be extinct, we know that Bria has also met a Terapagos in its stellar form, so the potential of another Terapagos appearing is on the cards, and maybe Pakugo does have something in relation to saving its friend, or maybe even sacrifices itself similar to Lucius. I hope none of this happens because I really like Pakugo, but with the plot twist that the anime is currently showing, gosh, there's something that's so intriguing about it. It's all very exciting news though. Well, I have to say Pokémon Horizons has truly outdone itself this year. There's been a real pickup of amazing development concepts and the story progression is flowing very nicely. The anime is now currently on a break, and it will resume in the new year with episode 79 airing on the 10th of January. Be sure to check out this new series if you haven't already. I know it may not be the usual Ash Ketchum anime we're used to, but Liko, Roy and the other characters have done a really good job at taking over the face of the Pokemon anime. The narrative right now is turning into something special, and a big game changer is coming soon, so be sure to give it a chance. and see if he can embrace this fresh, compelling and distinctive series complemented by unique elements and outstanding animation. I look forward to seeing how the adventure continues after the Christmas break, and of course, subscribe for more Pokémon Horizons coverage and Pokémon anime content.